No way.
I need you frightened. I need you hopeless.
Welcome to the chaos yet again. This is the Reflections of Horror podcast. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Kale, and this is the Raw episode. This is our first foreign language film, which is pretty cool.
Leave it to the French to give us our first set of cannibals.
Yeah, so true, actually. Leave it to the French. But yeah, I felt like that was some kind of milestone. I don't know, like, what kind? But...
I think it just shows how fancy we are.
Yeah, we are fancy.
Yeah.
We watched a French film.
Yeah.
We're fancy.
Yeah.
Cultured.
Yes, cultured. Cultured was the word I was looking for. I think, Gail?
Let's give us a quick synopsis.
Yeah.
What is Raw
Because
about?
before we even get into it, some people might need a summary because Raw is no longer on streaming. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna go ahead and rant already because while planning, we obviously plan a couple episodes ahead, and Raw was definitely on Hulu when we had this planned, and lo and behold, she's not there anymore.
Nope.
It's as if they were like, well, this director made Titane, so you can have Titane, but you can't have Raw anymore.
Because Who wants to see the debut anyway?
Exactly. So, but anyway, so our log line for this is: stringent vegetarian Justine encounters a decadent, merciless, and dangerously seductive world during her first week at veterinary school. Desperate to fit in, she strays from her principles and eats raw meat for the first time. The young woman soon experiences terrible and unexpected consequences as her true self begins to emerge.
It's an interesting way of summarizing it. I feel like...
I was going to ask you how you feel about that.
Well, I feel like you almost get into the same thing, the same problem that you have with, like, Jennifer's Body, where it's, like, immediately kind of like this, like, decadent and seductive.
Yeah.
I'm like... This was not a seductive movie to me.
It was literally a vet school full of like fraternity style hazing, and then it was like, hey, you went to college and you're gonna find out a lot about your family, and guess what, like, you actually come from a family of cannibals. Surprise!
Surprise! Yeah, so I don't know, I read some little commentary, because sometimes I venture over to Reddit, which is always a mistake.
Some good things, some very dangerous things there.
Yeah, and I'm like reading through it, and everybody was like, "This was such a sexual movie. There's so much eroticism," and I'm like, "It just what? Like, why is that the only thing that you're paying attention to? Someone who I presume is probably a male user, but like that just." It is a coming of age film, right?
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
But it did not, I don't know. I guess we'll have to talk about it. But like, what does this element of cannibalism mean in this movie? What is it trying to do?
Yeah.
In the context of our characters, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest questions that I still left with.
I love that point from Reddit of like people thinking that it's erotic, because the more movies we do with this podcast, the more I'm really questioning if everything is inherently queer and feminine, or if I have just decided to absorb everything like that.
Yeah, same. Big same, so, actually.
Anyway,
We'll talk about it.
Yes, sorry.
We'll talk about it.
Already chaotic. Welcome back.
Welcome
anyway, so Kale, get us started.
Yeah, so movie opens on this shot of a like empty road. There's a tree. It's kind of scenic, very like country road. And you get this like very brief shot of a car coming down, Chekhov's car. A car coming down, and then someone jumps into the street, they veer off, smash into a tree.
Do you know what I love about this opening scene? So I lied in the last episode because I was like, oh, I've never seen this. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. This opening scene started, and the moment the car came, I was like, oh, I've seen this. No lie. I sit down and I was like, oh, what is this going to be? And that car, and I was like, why does this look familiar? And then that in the crash, and I was like, oh, motherfucker, I've seen this a while ago.
Okay.
So anyway, it's funny how do you have this experience like with books? I would imagine
Okay.
I feel like I consume so much horror. If I don't like it, like it's gone.
Mhm.
I don't know where it lives.
I think I have that somewhat. Actually, I feel like I hold on to the stuff that I don't like more because I'm such a hater.
Oh.
But like ones that like either don't leave an impact, that like aren't okay. This is my little rant about fine.
Okay.
Something that's fine will leave my brain because it had wasted my time.
Yeah.
Right? Something that I hate is going to it's going to live in my brain rent free. And then something that's good will also live in my brain rent free. So if I'm consuming something and you're giving me something that does not stick around in my brain, then it was fine. And therefore I hated it.
Yeah.
Even if I hate something, I don't hate it as much as something I hate fine.
I've gotten hate text messages from you about something you've consumed that was just fine and how angry you were about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just don't waste my time with fine. I don't know if I've had that rant on the podcast
You
yet.
haven't? No.
Oh, great. Yeah. I got a lot of feelings about fine.
I think I'm now on a mission to find a movie for us to watch that's just fine.
Oh, why would you do that to me? It's fine.
All right. So opening scene. I have decided... I think I really like wide shots in horror movies.
Me too.
Because I think they get you really like locked in because you're scanning.
Mm-hmm.
You're scanning because you're like, ooh, what's going to happen? Where's it going to come out of? What's going to happen next?
Why am I looking at this?
Yeah.
What am I waiting to see?
So I as of right now, I'm really saying I really like a wide shot in a horror movie.
Me too.
I decided.
I like it too. I think just to quickly reference another movie, Beau's Afraid has a lot of really wide shots. And
How to Drop Ari Aster, didn't you?
How to Drop Ari Aster. We're not doing him yet. Calm down. But we will one day, because I have a lot of thoughts about Beau's Afraid.
Yeah.
But yeah, cinematography, just a lot of really wide shots, and there's a lot of those in here too, where you're just kind of like looking, and then you're appreciating the scenery, and then you're like, oh, what am I actually looking at right now? But yeah.
Go on.
Okay. So what you will see with this movie is that it is a lot of kind of cut scenes, right? There's a scene, and then something will happen to kind of further character development and the plot, and then there's another scene and another scene. There's not, like, the transitions are not super smooth. So neither will my transitions of explaining what's happening.
It will just
Those won't be smooth either.
It will just lend to the chaos. Welcome.
Indeed. So after that mysterious opening shot with the car, the crash, the tree, etc., we get our main character, Justine, this young French girl. This movie was shot in Belgium, by the way. I'm just
that's a fun fact.
Yes. She's at a diner, and she's going down, or like a buffet.
Yeah.
And she's going down, and it's kind of making it clear, like, she can only take like vegetarian, right? Because this is like one of my first comments. She just gets these potatoes slapped on her plate. Just slapped aggressively.
Like, I assumed we weren't at a restaurant. Like, I assumed you were in, like, I mean,
an evil lunch lady? What's going on?
It gives, like, jail vibes, the way she throws the potatoes down, but maybe that's how she feels about vegetarians. She was sick of the request.
Maybe. So just slap the mashed potatoes down. She goes back, and she's sitting with her parents. So she's, like, young, pretty young, and she's eating the potatoes, and kind of starts freaking out, and there was like a meatball got in there somehow, and then the mom gets upset. Mom is like, what if she had allergies, blah 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 blah. So kind of establishing like a little bit of family dynamics there, and that Justine is a staunch vegetarian, and as we kind of learn, has never had meat before.
I think it also starts to lend to the character development of, like, Justine is not very outspoken.
Yes.
Is not...
Very quiet. Very kind of mousy.
Yeah, like, not here to make a fuss, is just here in the background doing her vegetarian thing and just wants to be left out of it.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It does not work out super well for her. So... Another cutscene. We're in a car. We're driving somewhere. We're driving to a veterinary school. And again, you gotta through this car scene, not Chekhov's car this time. they're like driving through, and you can kind of tell that it seems to Justine to be a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of space, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of buildings. So you kind of are getting this idea that like this character is very sheltered.
I feel like they also start to trickle in by the way mom is talking. Like it's becoming very apparent that mom and or dad both went here, which we find out later they both went there.
Yes.
So, again, just kind of lending to family dynamics and like, what is this school about? What are we doing?
Director, fun fact, the director's parents were doctors.
Yeah.
So
did you read I'm just curious if we read the same interview now. But she talked about how she didn't want to base this in a medical school because it would have been too obvious that they would have just gone down to the morgue and eaten the bodies in the evening. So
conveniently, though, there is a morgue right next to the animal hospital. So I don't know what we're doing there.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that when I read that.
So another kind of cutscene, we're getting kind of a feel for the setup and stuff, and then it's nighttime, and Justine is in bed, and then there's this commotion. This man comes into her dorm, and she's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm the roommate. And she's like, I said no men. And he's like, well, I'm a Wexler. It's the same thing to them, right? And so that's our introduction to Adrian.
I'm gonna call him Adrian. I'm not gonna be able to keep up the French accent this evening.
The roommate Adrian, and then right after him, in an influx of a bunch of little freaks and little freak masks, ski masks, come busting in, and with their white coats.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued by the whole setup of this school because in my experience, anyone I've like spoken to that's European is like really intrigued by our concept of like fraternities and sororities, and they don't really get it and don't like. I've had people be like, is it really like the movies? And I'm like, yeah bro, like it's fraternity row and sorority row, yes, they function like that. So I'm just curious like, because this vet school is given
they're nuts. They're crazy.
Animal house, deepest fraternity depths basement that you could think of. So I'm just like, I'd be curious to know, are specialty schools in Belgium and or France this fucking wild?
So, couple things about that. One, this was shot at a school in Belgium because France does not have schools like these. They do not have like this kind of American campus dorms
and whatnot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but I guess the school in Belgium kind of did, which is interesting because I think in the stuff that I was reading, it was like they didn't have American style schools in French. So this is definitely heavily based off of like American hazing culture. I would think. And another interesting thing is that I was really confused by it. I also was asking, I was like, are the French just crazy? When I was talking to a regular today, shout out to Britt, about this movie and about like veterinary school hazing. And I guess even the school here, there's like, you can't call it hazing, but there is obviously. There is hazing. And I guess just like high level schools or vet school are just like that. Wow. Which I am really kind of curious about because I did not experience any Greek life. I've never been hazed. I've never, this is so outside of my frame of reference that I just don't get it. I don't understand it.
What questions do you have? Because the soccer team...
Yeah, I was like, I bet Lisa has some interesting perspective on that.
So, interesting enough, my experience was not that bad because my freshman year, basically, something had happened within the last 4 years that ended up in the court system.
Oh.
So, my experience was very tame because they basically were like, so like, we got to rein this back. Like, I just had to get a lawyer. So I was like, wow, that's cool. Glad I timed that right. Yeah. But like, I can't comprehend it. Because I, like, this level of hazing, I'd be out.
Oh,
I'd be like,
immediately.
you
Oh,
can
no.
shove it where the, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. You break into my dorm room being that aggressive, there is no chance that I am not putting on clothes and leaving the next day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. And well, so they're all like dragged out of their beds and stuff, and Adrian is like kind of waving around the ski pole, Chekhov's ski pole, by the way.
Which comes back around later. Oh, I didn't even think about that we get it in the very beginning.
Yeah,
And
I saw it.
Well,
I finished it, and then I started it again, because I was like, okay, I need to get more familiar with it, but like immediately, back to back. So anyway, yeah, so I don't know. There's a lot, like, the phenomenon of hazing is just really interesting to me in a way that kind of like religion is, and that I never experienced it, and I don't understand it.
I think it's very much based in this. I want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
I have to be a part of something.
Trauma bonding? Is
Yes.
that what it is?
It is.
That's what it is.
In my opinion, it 100% is. It's a bit of trauma bonding. It's a bit of we made it through, and much in the way that this movie is set up, you have, what are they asked to be called? The elders, whatever, the older
great
students.
ones.
Yeah, the great
the
ones.
elders.
Like, the great ones are now in a place of like, we've done this. We've earned our place. It is now your time. And then once it is your time, you are now part of being a great one.
Interesting.
Not clicking for you, is it?
I just am like, well, if you went through all of that, why would you do it to other people, I guess, you know?
Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
well, I guess it's just, I feel like it's a really interesting way of talking about, like, power and how power can make you crazy, and how power perpetuates itself.
Yeah.
That I just find really kind of interesting and a little bit alien to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in this movie, I think Justine is sitting in a position where it's like, older sister went. Mm-hmm. Well, it's like parents went. Mm-hmm. Older sister followed suit. Well, I have to. Yeah. I have to. Yeah. I can't be the failure that doesn't go.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, so they're all pulled out of their dorm rooms. All of I guess we assume that they're all first years, right?
Yeah.
Dragged out of bed and made to all crawl in this little tunnel, I guess.
How did you feel? Like, it's kind of a slow-mo scene, right?
It is. It's very slow.
Yeah.
It's very unsettling, really.
Very eerie. Coming over the wall.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much, you get some of these shots that are like zombie-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
very zombie-esque.
Just part of the herd doing as I'm told.
Yeah. Yeah, very shambly, very zombie.
Yeah. And I just love that they're just crawling on all fours, and that's when poor Adrian introduces himself.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Adrian.
Yeah. Hi.
Here we are in our underwear, and
he's like, it's just games. And I'm like, okay.
Are you sure about that?
Sure.
But
yeah. So we get that, and then they're crawling, and then they kind of like all stumble out into this like big wild party, right? And there's like, they'll come crawling into this wild party.
Can I read my notes to you?
Yes, please do.
Doors open and they're at an underground rave. Flash of titties, drugs, lots of alcohol.
Yep, pretty much. That's what the scene is. Shout out to the also kind of inexplicable how did we get here church party from a previous episode, the Run Sweetheart Run episode.
Very similar.
We're just gonna pop in random parties. I'm like, I've never been to a party like that. I mean, back in the day, I would have loved to.
I will say, in all of my wanderings, I never did the whole like come around a dark corner, you're in an alley, and then open up the door and it's a rave. I never got that one, unfortunately.
Never got that one either. I do want to. This is also where we run into the sister that you mentioned before. The sister who is like an older year. I don't know what year she is. If she's a great one.
But we think she's a bit of a degenerate because she never showed up to pick her up when mom and dad dropped her off.
Yes. And there was also this implication in the way that the parents were talking about the older sister that there was just like a strained relationship there, right?
Yep.
So yeah, we meet Alex, and there's this kind of implication that Alex is going to be like some kind of guide into the vet school world, teach you how to navigate it. Go ahead.
And I feel like this is the first bit of like, I feel like Justine is always kind of looking to her sister.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
And like, this is the first part of like, she has stumbled into this party, and as we're navigating this crowd with her, she's very much just looking for her sister.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The one familiar thing in all of this chaos, right? Cinematography wise, as we're transitioning out of this party scene, there is a lingering camera shot on like a plushy lamb that has been strung up by a noose. And I just thought that was really interesting. That was an interesting shot because it's like, you know, lamb, innocence, it's been strung up. We have Justine, this like kind of doe-eyed mousy girl. And so really interesting. And then cutscene, we come to this horse scene which actually this was a real veterinary scene that they got permission to film.
Okay, so I assumed that had to be what it is.
Yes.
Because I was like, this is a lot, and this is a large animal. This has to be like something real happening.
Yeah, this is not like a bad CGI or like a stuffed animal. So they're basically preparing this horse for surgery, and then we have the little students all watching, and then you get kind of this like close-up on Justine seems very alarmed about this, right? Which like shows again kind of like how she's coming into the world, she's being exposed to these things, and I guess this vet frat is gonna like beat that kind of like alarm out of her. Is that the intention? Like, maybe I'm still trying to figure out the hazing thing, man.
It's weird because it's like I feel like every scene we get that we're going to talk through that involves the vet school is like a lot. Like sensory wise, a lot. Like when she walks into the class and there's just a cow in the front. Like the vet
getting its uterus.
The vet school's a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like that must be something that just happens on vet schools, because it's like my mom operates a rescue farm, like a ton of animals, and there's always something happening. There's always weird shit that you have to do. With, like, because the animals just hurt themselves a lot and they get sick, and it's like working on a farm and working around large animals just is kind of inherently just, it's gonna be gross, and you just have to be comfortable with that grossness. Similar to being like a doctor, I would assume.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, another cutscene. They are out, and there's a bunch of other Great One elders marching, singing, lining up in front of the newest class coming in, and they're all standing there, and they're kind of learning the rules. We're learning that this is the fraternity of the vets. And stuff.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, and that this is the ritual. This is the hazing. It's rush week, basically.
Well, but. Like, what they're chanting is, like, very sexist.
Oh, yeah.
It's talking about, like, fucking you and having big balls. And I'm like, again, if I was asked to line up as a woman and chant this, but to be fair, this is 35-year-old Lisa talking.
Yeah. And this is also
18-year-old Lisa probably would have been all fucking lined up chanting about how I'm gonna fuck somebody and I've got big balls. Like, it's just a different universe.
I think it also kind of sets up that this is like, I mean, like a lot of professions, this is a very male dominated kind of field, right? And like all of the male characters, with the exception of Adrian, I think, that we have to deal with are like suck.
Gross.
Yeah, they suck. They're gross. They're patronizing, they're rude, so anyway, we're getting this idea that it's rush week, and all the poor little first years are lined up, and then they have a bunch of pig's blood spilled over them, and I'm like, we got a Carrie call out there. That's pretty cool though.
And then they just walk around in those coats covered in blood.
Yeah, all day. And they just, that's what they're, they are stuck in the bloody coats all day. But after they have all the blood spilled over them in this like initiation or whatever, there's a second initiation that you have to do, which is all line up with the guy who dumped pig's blood on you, and he's handing out treats treats for the kids.
Like, do they steal these rabbit kidneys? Is the school like, yeah, take the rabbit kidneys and feed them to the new kids? Like, whoa,
Probably.
what are we doing?
Where did the rabbit kidneys come from? Who knows? But so the rabbit kidneys that are given out, and each new initiate has to eat one
with like a shot of something.
Yeah,
I'm assuming alcohol.
Yeah, probably some kind of alcohol.
I would hope.
And the problem is that Justine is strictly vegetarian.
Yeah,
with the implication that like she has never had meat before ever in her whole life. She's been raised vegetarian, right? And so this is kind of around the time where like she's confronted with this. It's like, eat this kidney, be an outsider. Her sister gets involved, eats the kidney in front of her, and it's just this forced thing of like, you have to eat this meat, right? And I'm thinking at this point in the film, what is the point of her being a vegetarian? What is this trying to symbolize? Is it a morals thing? Is it like, what are we doing here? Because I'm still like, I haven't gotten to the end of the movie in this point of my thoughts. Because I think we definitely do learn later why. But it's not even a point that like she knows why either, you know?
Yeah. Which I think could also lend, though, to the type of person she is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why is she a vegetarian? Well, because her parents told her to be a vegetarian, and the family's vegetarian. Because doesn't she try to look at the sister and be like, well, you're vegetarian, too? And then that's the first moment where the sister eats it, and you're like, oh, sister said, fuck you, I'm not a vegetarian anymore when I'm at school. Yeah. I'm going to need you to dive into, like, your thoughts on this, like, I hyperfixate on the sibling dynamic throughout this movie.
Yes, me too.
And it's interesting to me. I only have an older brother.
I have an older sister, but we grew up kind of separately. Yeah. So I don't really have that kind of, because there's a lot of like animosity in like this older sister relationship, and like I experienced a little bit of that when I was like little, but I never really got that like coming like as I'm coming of age kind of thing, right? And then all my other siblings are my younger brothers, right? So it is kind of also, I was also fixated on it in another way of like, is this how it is? Like,
okay, so that is my thought, because like one, I do love, like, as we snowball through this movie, we definitely see this back and forth sibling dynamic. Like, this is the first one where she's kind of trying to be like, sis, like, help me out, I'm a vegetarian. The sister basically like shoves it down her throat. Yeah. Is like, you're gonna eat this. So it's like that, like, I related to that as a younger sibling, but then I hate to flaunt how good of an older brother my older brother is, but like, I'm like, I don't ever remember those moments of like reaching out for help and just having like my older brother be like, fuck you, do this instead. Like,
yeah, I don't either. And that's not how I behaved as like an older sister either. I mean, I got some terrorizing from like younger brothers and stuff, but I think the dynamic is just very different.
So it's like a little bit of, it was kind of heartbreaking to me because it's this wheel of like animosity, the love will come back around, animosity. So we'll see that throughout the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, so
Alexa's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
Is what we've landed on.
Yeah, definitely.
And nobody's a bitch. And nobody's a vegetarian anymore.
So. No one's a vegetarian anymore. And like kind of on that thought of like, we'll come back to this because there is a book that I want to mention called The Vegetarian, which just won the Nobel Prize for Literature this year. Ooh. But
we love a good kale recommendation on the book front.
And not only that, this is the first South Korean to win, and Han Kang is a woman.
Oh yeah, so we'll dive into that in the obsessions.
Yeah, yeah.
There's your obsession for the week.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, another cutscene. We're now in the cafeteria, and it's Adrian, some other guy, and then Justine again, and they're all eating, and there's this like this fucking guy is
on the topic of awful, nasty men in this movie.
Yes, yeah, on the topic of them is talking about, I guess, like the if animals have feelings, essentially.
Yeah, but I was also like, is he trying to insinuate like Adrian's sexuality and trying to go down that road?
Exactly. He's talking about like drawing this line between like doing surgery on a monkey.
Yeah.
And then monkey blah blah blah, and then like how AIDS happened because some guy fucked a monkey, and he's talking about this in front of Adrian, who has been established as a gay man.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, and he's getting like uncomfortable with it, and I'm uncomfortable with it, and then Justine is uncomfortable about the monkeys, and I'm like, and I think this is another scene of just shows how sheltered she is, because like she's like a raped monkey would feel the same like pain as like a woman, and she gets called out for that, and all this thing. And I think that this scene for me just really kind of highlighted of like why she's in veterinary school, because she's the kind of veterinarian or potential veterinarian who like probably like really cares about animals, has made her vegetarianism probably about this love of animals, and that's why she's in vet school. And not everybody goes and becomes a vet because they love animals. In fact, if you are like the cushy animal lover, do not become a veterinarian. It will ruin your soul, I would say.
I would agree with that.
And then we get our first test, and then another cutscene. There's a lot of, it's jumpy. She takes her first test. We get this taste of her professor just being a general like dickhead.
I feel like it's still a little bit of character development, because like Adrian tries to cheat off of her. And she like covers her answers. So I think a little bit of like, what is he like? What is she like? And then turning in the paper, and then like the fucking professor being like, you're basically like, your reputation precedes you. Oh, off to a bad start. Already missed one. Like, okay, Albert Einstein looking ass. Like, shut up.
Actually, though, it's the hair. He does have a little mustache.
So fucking E equals MC squared. Shut up. Just put my test down and let me get out of here.
Let me leave. Then another cutscene. It's nighttime. Justine is in bed, and she is rolling around in bed. She's unable to sleep, and she's very, very itchy.
This is where I become unwell in this movie.
Oh, yeah. It's the sound for me. The sound makes it really good, actually.
Okay, it's also the premise. So, like, a little... I dabble in being a hypochondriac.
Okay.
It just depends on the situation.
Got it.
If I was a vegetarian and ate, what is it, a rabbit kidney, whatever, and woke up with a rash, or had a rash the next day, I'd pass away. I would simply die. I would be like, I have the next coming of whatever disease, and I'm gonna die. No, that's fair, especially if you've like never eaten meat and then this happens to your body. And again,
it's a bad rash.
The way it is fucking shot, you're tight underneath the covers. She's just scratching away.
Really, and you can see that her skin is really, really dark red. So yeah, it was like body horror in there immediately.
And this is a thing with this director, because I made a mini episode on the movie Titane, because I'm obsessed with it, because I also watched it, also created by this director. She has a scene in fucking Titane where there is a character just fucking going to town itching, and I'm like, she has to stop with this.
When I was listening to that, and it really hit me like the second time, because I think the first time I was really hit by the visual of it, and then when
she flicks the lights on,
with the sound mixing in my second watch, it was so much. It was so much. I could feel it in my teeth. Really rough. So naturally, she's a little freaked out, and then she goes to the doctor.
So before we get to the doctor, we get the cut scene of the horse running on a treadmill.
I jumped over that because I didn't know what the point of that was.
So only on second rewatch. So we watch through, and then both of us kind of do like a second rewatch where we take all of our notes. The way it's shot, I feel like it kind of emphasizes on the reins, and they're getting tighter. And I literally, my note was, is this a visual metaphor for her, like, cannibalistic nature about to break out?
Okay.
That's where I
see
went
that.
with it.
Yeah, I like that.
Because we have our, but even to bring it back around, like, what is this rash?
Yeah, what is the rash? What's going on?
Cannibals break out in rashes? Like, what are we doing?
We don't really get an answer for that. She has a rash, and then it's literally never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Which, is interesting. Maybe it's this, like, physical... I feel like, okay, so in the doctor scene, right, she's talking to the doctor.
This old lesbian nurse has to be an old lesbian nurse. Come on.
Yeah. Like, this nurse who... I put the point that I just wanted to address really quick is that when there's something so obviously wrong with your body, and then you as, like, an AFAB person are in of, like, my problem is my skin right now, and then you get the question of, like, when was your last period? Are you pregnant? That makes me feel crazy because, like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that this bloody rash on me is probably not because I'm pregnant. So leave me alone.
I also love that she was like, you probably just have food poisoning, drink more water.
Crazy. As she is...
The scene where she is peeling her skin off.
Like a snake. Like snake skin, peeling it off. How is that gonna help your rash, first of all?
Yeah, I
don't think you should do that. But also, I did kind of fixate on, like, the snake metaphor of, like, shedding your skin, transformation.
You want to know what I was focused on? Trying not to vomit, because I am not a body horror girly, and her just peeling the skin on.
It's rough. Yes. So the next few scenes I think are very kind of, like, slow burn.
Sorry, this lesbian nurse, I'm still stuck on her, because she, like, tried to give just life lessons, basically. She also basically was like, I know that it's rush week, just lay low, blend into the background.
Yeah.
Wow, doesn't she light a cigarette at the end of the
Oh no, she's giving life advice.
Yeah.
With a cigarette. This nurse inside, which, again, I guess they just do things in French/Belgium.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. It's just giving very European school nurse. Like, come on, chain smoke, just blend into the background.
It kind of rocks.
Yeah.
She's a great
Well, also
actually.
being like, don't concede to peer pressure. Bitch, I already ate a rabbit kidney.
Yeah.
Like, what?
She's like, you ate a rabbit kidney because they told you to. And it's like, well, to be fair, her sister did force it down her throat.
Yeah.
So,
like a turd.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then we kind of move into, like, she mentioned, I think, in the doctor scene of, like, she's really hungry now.
Yeah.
Like, she's starving all the time, right? And I just want to say, because she's eating, and then there's this other scene where she, like, steals a burger, which we'll talk to more. But I do first want to say that I love, and I don't want this to sound, like, weird, but I love a starving girl trope. Like, I love a trope of, like, I guess I just love the theme of, like, hunger in any kind of narrative.
Like an insatiable.
Yes, I just think it's so interesting. It's so compelling.
Yeah.
Just, like, hunger and, like, starvation and, like, need, right? And I love it when you have the trope of, like, a girl who is, like, repressed and starving, and then you just get this shot of her just, like, eating and, like, devouring.
Yeah.
I love that because I think that, especially with, like, you know, this this petite, like, person, right? It's like, with kind of, there's, like, themes of, like, eating disorder in here too.
Yeah.
And so I just love when it's like you shed that and you break through that and you just eat, you know? It's just like, let a woman be hungry.
Yeah.
But not just hungry, like, let her feed.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's great. Anyway, she's super hungry right now. We kind of, my notes went a little bit vague here because I think it just seemed vague. We get a little bit of a look at, like, her and her sister's relationship, and again, just, like, this emphasis that it's, like, tense. Alex is really wily and mean, and Justine is just, like, clueless, but also somehow a little bit smug because she's really smart, right?
Yes.
So she knows she's really smart.
Because, like, so the scene, I just do want to mention this because we get a scene where Alex is going through her closet, or her own closet, I think, to get a dress for Justine.
Yes.
All the while, Justine is like either going over a piece of homework or a test or something, and is like, well, yeah, I just wanted to correct what you missed.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, it's just a very weird dynamic, but we just need to know Alex finds her this dress, because this dress pops up. It's kind of consistent from here on out. We see it. And I will just admit, when they're in the dorm room and Justine puts the dress on over her clothes, I was like, I am Justine. I am Justine. This is a me moment.
It's not happening.
Yeah, where, she's being asked to do a lot of shit she just is not comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I guess the whole thing is she runs into an elder, and the elder is like, oh, you're supposed to dress like slutty or something, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't have any, like, revealing clothes, so she goes to her sister to find a thing.
And the elder makes her put on a diaper also, which, like, cool.
Yeah.
We're still hazing. You guys are getting really fucking annoying.
Okay, here are my notes for that. And it's like, hazing sucks. I still don't understand it. College sucks.
I'm thankful you never had to go through any hazing experiences.
Yeah, me too.
You didn't miss out on anything. I'm glad that you didn't have to.
I got pretty lucky too, because I feel like probably bullying is also a form of hazing, and I was homeschooled, so I was never bullied. I was just really lonely.
That's fair. You had all your books though.
Got all my books. Anyway, okay, and then so we get that another hazing, and then a cutscene to lunch with she's with Adrian, and they're going down the line to get lunch, and
I literally put in all caps, drives her hand into the pork patties and tries to steal one, as if why did we have to do it like that?
And then she puts it in her pocket.
Just
her white pocket, her white lab coat. She puts a full patty, a dripping, greasy little patty just in her pocket to steal it, because she doesn't want to buy it because she's ashamed that she wants to eat meat.
I'm not even there yet. I'm still queasy. I struggled with this movie because it makes me a little queasy. It's very, like, squishy, gushy things happening.
That's true.
And we get the shot, like, you're basically in almost like the lunch lady's perspective, looking through the thing, and she slides her fingers into the stack of patties. I'm like, motherfucker, you couldn't just take the one off the top.
You get your dirty little fingies and all of it.
Just because you're hungry and just because you're a fucking cannibal now does not make you an animal. Take the patty off the top and put it in your pocket. Like,
take
for
the
fuck's
animal
sake.
out of the cannibal.
Oh my god. Literally.
That's so funny.
That's what got me. I was like, I don't even care. You're trying. Eat your meat, girl. I don't care. Don't drive your fingers into the buffet line, because you are unhinged for that.
Yeah.
So that's
that
where.
Wild. Well, for me, what really got is that she put this wet patty in just her white coat pocket.
Girl, the white coat pocket
didn't do
it's
shit.
Covered in blood anyway. They're just a mess. Just ugh.
Yeah. Well, they go to check out. She's immediately called out for it, and she's just like embarrassed. That sucked, and she had to buy the patty. She throws it away. Waste of food. You ruined the whole pan. You're also wasting your food. Whatever.
Yeah. Something tells me the school isn't going to be worried about the fact she just drove her hand into the patties. They probably just let that be.
Probably.
But Adrian, sweetie pie, I really like Adrian. So he like sees this and he's like, I'm going to go take you to get some shawarma. Because you're embarrassed to eat meat in front of people. So we're going to get on a bus, just us two and like one other person, and drive to wherever, and you can eat your meaty shawarma. Yeah,
out in private where you don't have to be bothered.
Yeah, except by a super creepy fucking trucker.
Yeah, yep. They're on the bus. They're driving there. Also, we're kind of in a similar street country area.
Oh right, we drive past
You're driving past an accident. There's like a car crashed into a tree, a dead body, presumably dead.
Yeah,
being loaded into an ambulance.
Do we think that's the same car as the opening?
That's a good question. I don't know kind of chronologically where that fits, or if it's another car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
I feel like they were both blue. That's why I was like, is this the same? And then they're just coming upon this.
It's possible. I think that's interesting. Maybe to kind of like up the suspense of like, where are we going? What are we doing? You know, because I think of the first watch, because I think it lends itself to that kind of cutscene of like every single time you're in a new scene, you're trying to figure out
where the
what's
fuck
happening
are we going now. Yeah.
Where am I? What's going on? Who am I with? Which probably is how Justine feels all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Past the accident, get there. Really kind of the only note I had was that also that trucker scene was weird.
What did you think about, like, she kind of goes through this transformation because they get there at first and she gets her little meat sandwich and she basically like looks at Adrian and she was like, you can't watch me.
Yeah.
And Adrian's like, okay, whatever. And he just kind of like looks straight ahead and is like talking to her. And then this creepy trucker walks up and starts like caressing Adrian's ear, which like, again,
for like a solid minute.
I feel like we have like a whole other side quest for like Adrian suffering from homophobia in this movie.
Absolutely, dude. I'm like, why him?
But like this trucker gets so creepy, and then all of a sudden, Justine's like, bet I'm just gonna fucking devour this meat in front of both of you. I don't give a shit.
She's like basically like staring down the trucker as she's stuffing her face with this meat, and I'm like, okay, interesting. That is interesting. And I do have a lot of thoughts that I think we'll probably get to a little bit later on Adrian's character.
Got it.
Because, just the poor man. He had to put up with a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving right along, another cutscene, to her back at school in her professor's office. He's being a whole dick to her, and she is very anxiously kind of chewing on her hair.
No, even before we get there.
What did I miss?
When so we go from shawarma to then we're in the dorm room and she's in front of the fucking refrigerator. And this was...
God, how did I miss that?
This was such a college experience, I feel like, on Adrian's front, because Adrian, like, comes around the corner and he's essentially like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And she's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, what are you
doing?
doing?
Cereal.
And she's like, I'm getting breakfast, I'm eating cereal. He's like, the cereal's up there. What are you doing? And then she's like, basically like, leave me alone. And then he basically is like, okay, fuck this. And just goes back to bed. And again, to like, me just getting queasy with the textures in this movie. Homegirl is eating raw chicken on the floor. Kind of Jennifer's body.
That's what I put. I put that too. It was like very Jennifer's body. She's just chowing down on some raw chicken in the light of the fridge.
Oh, I don't know if it's because like I cook so much and like I know the texture of a raw chicken breast, but like she turns around and we're seeing it side on, so like you're just seeing chicken breast.
And it's like,
and I was like,
the texture, and this also is just like knowing the germs. Like, don't do that.
Well,
don't do that. Don't eat raw. Tip: don't eat raw chicken. It's bad for you.
I didn't even get that far. I was just like, the texture of that is making me nauseous. E. coli was not even a blip on my radar. I was like, salmonella. Thank you. Something. See, I don't even know what bacteria it would have been. It would have just fucking taken me down. Simply pass away. Anyway, so now we're with the shitty professor.
Yes, now we're with the shitty professor. She's chewing nervously on her hair. He's reaming her out for probably. He thinks that she cheated on the test that she finished really quickly, and
because her score was too high, basically. It was like you had to cheat.
Yeah, and it's like, well, actually, no. First of all, Adrian was cheating on me, on my test,
which like fucking narc. Okay, Justine.
Yeah, really though.
Protect Adrian at all costs.
Please.
I love him.
And so she's really, you can tell that like the stress of everything is really kind of getting to her, right? She's chewing on her hair. And then she's chewing uncomfortably on a lot of her hair. And then cutscene, she's in the bathroom.
I'm getting queasy thinking about this scene.
She's in the bathroom, and she starts like gagging and like throwing up, and then she's like reaching into her throat, and she's pulling out a fuck ton of hair, like a crazy amount of hair.
Yes.
Like, and this
like would not physically happened.
Her hair is not that
yeah.
long. Her hair is like shoulder length. Where did all this hair come from? Is she eating other people's hair? Like, is this her first, like, she's getting the cannibalism out of her by eating hair? I don't think hair and flesh probably taste the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, this scene is disgusting.
Yeah.
It is so, there's like, it's a lot, and it goes on for so long.
Yeah. And I think it was just the fact it was nearly back to back with the chicken breast scene, and I was like, I'm not even recovered yet. Don't do this.
Yeah, don't do this to me, please.
Yeah.
I did say, I was like, the practical effects are like really disgusting.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Then she's in the bathroom and she's washing off her face, and like this one little, it's a little scene.
I feel like it's like, is it supposed to be like a blip of like comedic relief, or are we just
not? I hope it's like this. I mean, it probably, that's how it was like maybe intended to come off. But I was like, also, it's like, well, there's someone there who's like trying to be nice to you.
Actually, I just thought, well, sorry. So not to rant and get us off track. So this girl at the mirror is basically like, she like checks on her, but it's like, you should use two fingers. It's easier that way.
Yeah.
And
well,
like,
I think the implication obviously is like, because she's also like cinematically, like, she has a rounder face.
Yeah.
I think she's supposed to be depicted as like being overweight, which like she wasn't. So she's this familiarity of like, I know what I'm doing, I can help you kind of thing. And it's like, I don't know how I put this quiet advice on how to be bulimic is actually crazy.
You're not wrong. And I only just connected later in the movie her sister being like, you better not be anorexic.
Yeah.
I just connected those.
There's a lot of that. I talk about this a little bit further on, but
is cannibalism a metaphor for anorexia?
I don't know. I don't think so in this story. I don't think it is. I think that all of that, this focus on like eating disorder and what specifically Justine is putting in her body and doing with her body and doing to her body, there's so much pressure placed on that, external pressures that are doing this to her and putting these assumptions on her. I think that's kind of more what it is, with like that asking if you don't be anorexic or like you better not be, and then also like, here's how you can be bulimic, also eat this, also don't eat that, also wait, eat more of this, you know. There's so many, and these are all external voices that are talking about this to her, right? This policing of her body, I think is really kind of interesting. But yeah, okay, wait, we're getting there actually. That was my next note. And then we get another cutscene of them, like, she's hanging out with her sister.
Do you want to know what my note says? She is hanging out with her sister, but the cutscene, she goes and finds her sister who's shoulder deep in the ass of a cow.
Oh, yeah.
But then, yes,
as a vet student commonly finds themselves, I feel like.
Again, just kind of that shock factor. Like, there's a massive cow, and her sister's like, hold on a minute.
Yeah,
like,
we'll talk. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny, because I didn't even put that part in my notes, because I feel like it's just, like, understanding the weird shit that vets have to get comfortable with really fast in order to be a vet just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, because she goes from having her being shoulder deep in the ass of a cow to just like on the roof with her sister hanging out and drinking beers.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. It's a life. Veterinary school. Shout out to any vet students.
Yeah, shout out. So then we kind of get more of a like taste of like their relationship, and also kind of the way that I think Alex sees herself.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Very kind of like, I'm the black sheep. Look at me. I like, you know, I've diverted from our family's expectations, kind of thing. Yeah.
Because Justine flat out asks, like, do you think I'm weird?
Yes. Yeah.
And then her sister answers and is like, no, like, I'm the black sheep. What are you talking about, basically?
Yeah. It's like, you don't get to be weird. I'm the weird one. which is annoying. You know, it feels very. I don't like Alex. I'll say that kind of flat out. It's giving me pick me, like edgy pick me, you know.
It's like
I'm too weird. I'm not like other girls.
She's giving what's the girl's name from The Craft? If the girl from The Craft was a pick me girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
that rocks. Yeah, so weird sister bonding. They're both trying to pee like boys, which, like, good for them. That shit looks hard.
She said, she's like, drive your hips out. You could do it.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? This is very French. Very French.
Very French, yes. And then, so when they're done bonding on the roof, they go back to Alex's dorm or apartment or whatever. And,
because Justine, like a little baby girl, is like,
like,
can I sleep at your place?
Can I sleep at your house? I don't feel very good.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, honey, of course you don't. You're going through a lot right now. You're pluming into cannibalism. You're still being hazed. Like, your professor's an asshole. Like, this poor child is just under so much stress.
Oh, wow.
And so they're, like, again, this kind of weird expectation, like, placed on Justine's body. They're brushing their teeth together, and, like, her sister's kind of picking on her.
Can I ask
Yes.
a nugget?
Mm-hmm.
So, brushing her teeth, opens the mirror, because she's a little sister, she's going to be fucking nosy. The cream.
The cream. It's probably the same cream. She got at the doctor, they gave her cream.
I'm like, so this is cannibal rash cream. Got it. Sister has the cannibal rash cream as well.
Why does that, like, sound? It could be a band name. Like, a cannibal rash cream.
That's going to be my drag name. Coming to the stage, cannibal rash cream. Anyway.
Incredible. I love
you
that.
guys, we are filming this podcast later in the evening than we normally do, and I think that's why we're like, I'm getting a little slap happy. I'm giggling too much.
Well, I feel like we've done a late episode before.
Not this late, I don't think.
This late? Oh, okay. Well,
but we're having a good time.
Yeah, hopefully you are too.
Yeah.
Anyway, the waxing scene.
But yes, so we're basically nitpicking her body. And I love how we went from, I'm gonna pluck your eyebrow, to why do you have armpit hair, to I need to wax your vagina.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a sister. I don't know how this works.
I don't either. It's a little a lot.
Yeah.
Not for me.
And so the anticipation of the waxing scene had me questioning if I was perhaps mixing horror movies, because I really thought when she ripped it, we were going to get flesh come with it.
Think that
has that happened in another movie, or am I just making up?
I think it has. I don't know what movie.
That's giving Final Destination. Listeners, if you can pinpoint what horror movie, it had to be somewhere else. Because especially, so she waxes one side, it hurts, whatever. The other side, she pulls and it's getting stuck. And I'm like, oh, she's going to rip this and the skin's coming with it. But she gets the right idea. Alex is like, I'm just going to go get scissors.
Breaks out the biggest scissors you've ever seen.
Also, I've never seen a pair of scissors this large in a fucking dorm room. I would tell you that much.
No way.
But again, it's vet school. Who knows what they're up to?
Who knows what those scissors are actually for?
Yeah. So, well, tonight they're for cutting fingers off. So,
spoiler alert.
She takes these fucking scissors, but again, like, even to the logistics of just cutting wax off with scissors makes no sense. But
no.
She goes to do it. Sister Justine freaks out and kicks out. Also the logistics of, like, kicking out. How did scissors perfectly cut? But
we don't know.
Alex sits back up and
no finger.
No middle finger.
She's looking at her bloody hand, and then she pretty promptly passes out. Which I feel like, I was like, wow, that's so cliche. You're just going to pass out. And I was like, I have cut my finger pretty deep before, and I've almost passed out. Yeah. So if my entire finger was gone, I probably would also be on the floor. Yeah, I'd be just... And
then we haven't discussed the sister's dog.
Quickie. Poor Quickie.
So the sister has a dog. It's German Shepherd.
It's very cute.
It made me think of that dog we saw out at the bar because it was at that rave, and I was like, why do you have your dog at this rave? It doesn't want to be there.
True. Don't take your dogs to raves or bars. Just leave them alone. They just want to go home.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt. Don't take your dogs to raves. They don't want to be there.
They don't want to be there.
So, so she has a dog. So she goes down. Blood's on the floor. Quickie's kind of lapping up the blood, whatever.
Yeah. My notes for this are really funny. I wrote, "Oh, this bitch is gonna eat it and blame it on the dog." Her sister's passed out. She's just sitting there, just nibbling like it's a chicken wing. God damn.
It literally, I think it's because we just got a rotisserie chicken for dinner the other night.
No.
It's like you get the good wings, and then there are the teeny tiny ones that you really can't bite. But if you're like really hard up for some extra chicken, you can nibble on them. I was like, it's giving that.
It is giving that.
Because basically Justine calls 911, is basically like, look, here's what happened. And
she's like, oh shit, gotta find the finger before the dog finds the finger.
The woman's like, you need to find the finger and put it on ice. And I'm just not built for body horror in shit like this, because she gets the finger and she gives it one of these. She's like looking at it. She's like, "Oh, I can just like suck the blood out of this," and gives it one of these.
Like it's a crawdad head. Like,
and I was like, "Here we fucking go." And then she's like, "That blood was good. It's gonna eat this like a corn on a cob." And it was the perfect. I love the way they shot it.
Me too. Because
you get her closer to the camera, and then the sister sits up in the background and sees it. And again, it was that moment where I was like, if I woke up and saw my brother eating my finger, I don't think I would have a non-response the way she did.
Right. Yeah, that's how you kind of know that like there's something up with the sister too.
Yeah, but I guess to put us in the frame of the movie, if I'm a cannibal and I know my little sister doesn't know she's a cannibal and then she's eating my finger, maybe I would be like, only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's like it was bound to happen.
Yeah, it was bound to happen.
And then they kind of addressed that later where they're like, it had to be my finger. Like you couldn't have gotten a taste for something else, which I thought was kind of amusing.
It was the fact when she asked what she tasted like, and she said, "You tasted like curry." I was like, that is such a fucking sibling thing to say. That is outrageous.
It's great. It's so funny. I also, just like another, like, why they did it this way, I really liked when the music hit, when she started. I was like, that's good.
Yeah.
That was a good, it's very haunting kind of music. It's very kind of like, and not just like the, that you get in so many horror movies. It just fit. It fit the scene very well, and I really appreciated that.
I would absolutely agree.
So it's like this, like almost like crescendo of like, she's finally like she knows now. But yeah, so sister, both of them, they end up in the hospital, and her parents are there. And again, like this kind of like contentious relationship, especially I think between like Alex and mom. Yes. It's not great. And
before we get into the family dynamic, can we talk about the old man with the teeth?
Do we have to? Yeah.
This is where like this movie just is a lot.
Yeah.
Like I think when you try to consume everything, it's a lot, but then when you zoom out, it is a good movie and it has its story to it. But there's like this old man in the hallway across from them, and he just like pops his teeth out basically, and Justine's kind of like, and then he like giggles to himself, and then like the lighting changes too at that moment, and I'm like why is he here? Why did you pay him to be in this movie?
Yeah, right. Like what was the reason for that? Like what was the point of that, besides just being like, oh, another shitty man, like, maybe that's what it was.
Maybe that's the thing.
Well, I feel like maybe, that kind of makes sense, because it's like you're dealing with all of this internal stuff going on. Your sister is hurt in the hospital because she cut her finger off, and then you're dealing with the internal struggle of like, I ate that finger. And then, you're going through a lot right now, and then you just look over and there's some fucking old guy being gross and weird. Like, That's actually really realistic.
That is okay, that actually tracks. Yeah, you cracked it. That's why he's there, to have that, like, fucking really moment.
Like, of all things, I did not need that right now.
With your big ass teeth. Anyway, so to the family dynamic, kind of just,
Dad's like kind of just there.
I feel like Dad's a dad.
Dad's dad. Yeah. And then Mom is like, you know, kind of naggy. And like, you don't really get a lot of the whole family's dynamic, I think. I think a lot of it is more just implied. Yeah. And even in the scenes where they're together, they're pretty brief. Yeah. And then the parents just kind of fuck off again. And they're like, bye, have fun at vet school. Yeah. Don't get hazed too hard. Yeah. They don't say that, but like, that's kind of what they're left with. Yeah. I felt,
what did you think of the scene? So basically, they're bickering back and forth. Justine's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Sis is like, basically like, the fuck you are, so am I, and tries to follow her. That's how they get outside. Justine, I guess again, I didn't track the underlying eating disorder throughout, because again, she's trying to retch when she goes outside. She sticks her fingers down her throat.
She's probably trying to throw up the finger.
To me, I was like, she's just trying to throw up the finger, but it kind of feeds to that theme still.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, the shame of eating, right?
Yeah.
That's, and I mean, like, yeah, you're gonna be ashamed because you ate your sister's finger, and that's fucking insane. But like also,
it was corn on the cob.
Like, I get that. I think that she's using the method that the girl from the bathroom suggested, right? And she's just like trying to get it out because, like, I don't want to eat what I had just eaten.
Yeah. But then when she comes back around, and then the dad's outside smoking by himself, because dads are gonna dad, I guess.
Do.
And then I love the way he's like, do you smoke? And just like hands her the cigarette, which in my head I was like, very French, very European, to just like look at your 18-year-old daughter and be like, I know that you're probably smoking by now.
Yeah.
But to me, it was because, so we have all this, and then they come back together, and he's like, do you smoke? Whatever. And then that conversation ends with, he's like, don't ever have two daughters. It's too hard. And then just like walks away. And I was like, that's like a really shitty thing to say to your daughter.
It's a shitty thing to say to your daughter.
So lots of fun family dynamics.
We also learn in this scene that probably Quickie is gonna get put down.
Oh yeah.
Because he has gotten a taste for human flesh. We don't know what he's gonna do with that, right?
And to which she was like, can he just take a pill?
Yeah.
And I like made a note. I was like, that's very like medical field.
Oh yeah.
Can he just take a pill?
And well, and I think it's also, I think that, like, so he's, this implication was like, Quickie has to die because he's eaten human flesh. And that's what you have to do with an animal that does that, because they can become dangerous, I guess. And like, what about when like a human has the same impulses? That she was actually the one who ate the finger.
Yeah.
Does she need to be put down? Right.
That's true.
Like, is this kind of
what? Have that thought.
Like what's going on through her head? Like thinking about that with her dad talking about this dog that way.
It's very true.
Yeah, and I just like keep thinking about this weird kind of her weird relationship with meat, where she was like she was forced to eat meat at first, and now she wants to. She's shamed for not eating meat. She's shamed for eating meat. Yeah. She's shamed, but still being pushed to it. Yeah. And like, it's just, it feels like she can't win with whatever she's trying to do. She can't win. She can't figure out how to fit into this world as she is, with these new impulses that she's kind of like figuring out that she probably didn't want. She didn't want to eat that rabbit kidney, you know? So it's just, it's interesting of like how thinking about the complexity of like her having to navigate all of that like internally. Yeah. So sister out of the hospital, they're wheeling her out. She kicks the wheelchair away and she storms off, and she's like, we need to talk. Probably, and so they go and walk kind of like out into the country. And as they're walking, they're talking a little bit. They're kind of It's like a bit of a heated argument at this point.
I would call it bickering.
Yeah, bickering.
Like, they're not really talking about anything of substance.
Yeah.
I feel like Justine's like, what do you want to talk about? And Alexa's basically like, shut the fuck up and follow me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're walking and she leaves her and they're crouching in a ditch by the road in the car in a very familiar little country area, right? Like, it's like this implication of like, oh, we've seen this shot before, right? Which I think, like, again, when you're jumping from scene to scene, trying to figure out where you are and what's going on, that kind of like aha moment of like, oh, I know where we are. I've seen this shot in this place before. Yeah. I think just like cinematically is pretty cool.
Well, and like the way they did it too, you're close up on them in the ditch with that conversation, and then at some point in that scene we kind of spin, and then we see that shot where, like you said, it's that, oh fuck, we've been here before. Yeah, that kind of like deja vu. Yeah. But yeah, they're still bickering. I think at this point it would be considering like they're arguing. Yeah. And then Alex is like, bolts into the road in front of a car and gets hit by the car. And again, to like everything that's happening to Justine, like, you just ate her finger. She's now walked you into the country and jumped in front of a car.
Yeah. What do you do with that? And I think Justine absolutely is wondering that too. The car crashes pretty violently into a tree. So here we're kind of getting this explanation of the first shot of this like figure jumping out in front of a car crashes into a tree, right? Yeah. And oh
my god, what happens if that was Mom in the first one?
Maybe. Way back when. You're right.
Way back when. Let's say it was Mom. Yeah. I like that. That's what I'm going to tell myself.
I like that too. So Justine rushes over because, again, Alex got hit by this car, and she's fine. She's fine. Yeah. And that's how we learn, I guess, that like cannibals are supernatural in this world. I
think it veered. It just nicked her.
She seemed like she got hit by the car. Like,
she's already missing a finger. What's a little nick to the shoulder to a bumper, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. So, and then that's there, and we kind of get this like, again, this like implication that like, okay, Alex is going to show her. Yeah. She's going to show her the guide. Yeah, show her the way. And she gets up and she goes over to the car and she starts taking a bite out of one of the not even dead passengers. Like, one of them were kind of like wheezing.
Yeah. You know? So we see in the car, and like the driver is, I don't know why my horror brain, his head was on the wheel, and I was like, someone needs to like bring him backwards because the horn's going. Yeah. Someone's going to find your little cannibal snack. Pull him back.
I was also thinking
shut the horn off.
I think I was also just annoyed by how long the horn was going. I'm like, please, like, sensory-wise, it's going to make me freak out.
That too. So I would say the driver's probably dead, but we do get a shot where the passengers...
still kind of choking.
But his brain is exposed is kind of what it looks like.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, and Alex is like, this is the best part. Let me just walk over here and nom. Like, nobody's big deal. I think what I really enjoyed about this scene is, like, everything goes unspoken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alex doesn't explain anything. A single thing. Yeah. She just does. And
she teaches by doing.
Yes, she's a doer, definitely. But yeah, she starts munching on the head, and then Justine basically freaks out and tries to get her to stop, and then storms off.
Yep. And she's walking down the street, headed back to school, presumably.
Which makes me laugh, because she's walking down this highway, sweater covered in blood, to which she then takes off, and then she's walking in only her bra. And I'm like...
That's also, like, it's suspicious to walk around in clothes covered in blood, for sure.
Yes.
Also kind of suspicious to be just walking around in your bra.
1,000%.
Like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Do not. Especially if you're trying to keep it low-key.
Yeah, keep it low-key and not have people question you about what on earth you're doing with your life. But anyway.
So we get another cutscene of... kind of like this focus on Adrian, Unless I missed a scene.
Nope.
Okay,
we are back in class, and we're what I'm presuming is an exam.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adrian comes in late, and then
okay.
Is basically like, will you tie my gown? And she pauses and kind of stares at the back of his neck.
She's giving him eyes.
Yeah.
Like, in my notes I put, she wants to eat him.
Yeah. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yes.
And then horrifically, is that quickie on the table?
Is that quickie?
It's
is
a
that
dog.
the implication? Like, is it implied that it's quickie?
That's what I
thought it was just a dog. I didn't think that she was going to have to dissect her own dog.
I thought the breed was very similar, if not
Right.
identical. And Adrian starts talking about the sister, doesn't he? And that
oh yeah, it's like it sucked.
And it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Da 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 da.
She's like, it's just a finger.
Yeah, and then she's like straight into the dog, and I was like, Jesus.
That is interesting. I like logistically, I think maybe that's an interesting like implication, even if it wasn't actually Quickie. It was just a dog that looks like Quickie.
Yeah.
Like her being able to kind of like very stoically just cut into the dog and dissect it and stuff is kind of shows that she's kind of maybe not losing it, but she's giving less of a fuck now.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't Quickie, like that still is something of like, oh, of course it's a dog that looks like Quickie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to skip forward to come back, even though we aren't supposed to, because we're supposed to go chronologically, but whatever. What did we think of the shot where then we're going to talk about the focus scene on Adrian when he's shirtless. And then after that, there's a cut scene of
the dog.
Dead dog on table, sheet being pulled off. I don't have anything for you.
I don't either. I wrote something down about it, but I don't know where it went. I did say something to the effect of like, why the dog? Like, what was the point of that shot?
I couldn't
maybe
piece anything together for that one.
Yeah, I couldn't either. Well, it's just like kind of like I just ignored the horse. I thought it was just like kind of French cinematic, kind of like, ooh,
it could be,
you know. So that was kind of my interpretation of it.
All right, so jumping back, since I jumped forward, even though we're not supposed to do that. So we have another hazing ritual of just the rookies chanting, and
my note for that was cutscene, more hazing. That's it.
Yeah. But again, I would say the only thing of note is like in that hazing ritual, there's a kind of a bit of like a locked eyes situation between Justine and her sister.
Yes.
For what? I don't really know what the vibe is, but it's a little, I don't know if it's a little bit of fuck you, or what it is, but
I that's what I kind of got to, which kind of brought me to this point is my catchphrase of like, would this have been better if it were gay? And I'm not saying that they would be gay as sisters,
incestually.
but like it, instead of being sisters, this was like
a tumultuous
another queer person showing her how to navigate the intricacies of cannibalism. I think that but then you get into the point where that's an entirely different movie. Would it be a better movie?
Yes.
Probably. Yeah.
Wow. I can't even start in that conversation because we'll be here for 4 hours. Because I think
we'll just end up writing this movie, but
we'll start spinning that web. But because I mean, you have so many themes of like shame of the body and shame of just what you're trying to do. You could definitely make that gay.
Oh, 100%,
and it would have been better. But
yeah, and then we get to I guess they're out playing sports or something, and Adrian is running around without a shirt off. He's very cute.
Yeah,
he's a
little cutie patootie.
Yeah, he's a cutie patootie, and I
would protect him at all costs, but
absolutely. Yeah. And it's again a long shot of like focusing on him and not necessarily on his face, but literally on his body.
Yes,
and I
also think it's of note he's the only one that's shirtless.
Yes.
To make him stand out even more.
Yes. And so my question is, I'm like, why is Adrian the most objectified character in the film?
Yeah.
because he is.
Yes.
He absolutely is. He's so objectified. Yeah. And, you know, it starts kind of like their relationship starts kind of like interesting, where it's like, yeah, we're going to get through this hazing thing together. Yeah. I'm going to take you to eat some meat and stuff. And then once she kind of has that taste, the way that she looks at him, I think does shift into a really kind of objectifying, gross space. Yes. Because I think the interpretation of me watching that scene is like, yes, he's a thing now. Oh yeah. She's looking at him like he is a thing to eat.
Well, and like when so it's basically this like back and forth between, we see Adrian playing soccer or football, and we're like zoned in on him, and then we're cutting and we're getting Justine just like just zoned in,
fucking crazy staring.
Yeah. And so it's definitely objectification. I think I have to ask the question. I mean, it's a little bit the same premise as when our main character is a man and there is a woman by proxy. The woman always ends up being objectified. Mm-hmm. So are we just getting the same plot, but we've inverted sexualities and genders?
Yeah, it kind of does feel like that, because I think also I'm trying to kind of parse out the significance of him not just being like a man who's there, like a, I guess, kind of coded like safe man, right? Yeah. But like also a gay man who comes with all of his own like baggage and all of his own traumas and all of his own troubles, and it's like, why are we objectifying him the most? Yeah, is like an answer that are we just doing it to invert that kind of thing? Like, is it that lazy of writing, or is it something else?
I have to hope that she just kind of fell into it in her writing, because you start with the gay best friend to make him safe. Yeah. He's the gay man. He's going to be the gay best friend. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I would hope that maybe she had to find people for her to try to fucking eat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And maybe he was just there. Anyway, we'll get to that. Yeah. So it was right after that shot and then her nose bleeds from like staring at him.
Staring so too hard, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. And then we get the dead dog shot. Yeah. And I'm like, feels a little bit like foreshadowing. Yeah. Yeah. Like another kind of, so maybe it was Quickie. Anyway, we'll come back to that one, I think, because we don't want to spoil it yet.
I'm gonna say it can't be foreshadowing. Quickie's already dead at this point.
Yeah, not. I'm talking about the dog is Adrian. Yeah, like it's like well, so okay, so you think about it, like Quickie died because of these two girls and them fucking around with their cannibalism, right? Yeah. And so is Quickie Adrian? Is that kind of like that building up to that? I wonder. I think
because he had a taste.
Yeah. Well, what?
They had sex.
Yes, but he didn't eat.
No, but like I'm having a taste of the.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, because I'm just like a victim of their destruction, trying to figure themselves out, right? Of like, he didn't really do anything. Yeah. But that dog is still dead on the table. You know, true. I feel like we'll get there.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah. I can follow this. We can hash this out.
Anyway, moving along back chronologically after that flash of the dead dog, after we're objectifying Adrian, we get Justine feeling herself.
I literally said, can I just say French rap is wild?
It's wild.
Like,
did you read the lyrics?
Yes. So she's in the dress that her sister gave her, and she's like, I'm going to say attempting to dance in the mirror. She's attempting to practice her seductive dancing. She's
trying to be sultry.
And there is like French rap run in the background. That is like Lil' Kim meets Nicki Minaj, still ramped up 15. Still, like some of these lyrics.
Like goth sprinkles in there too. It's like there's like lyrics. I bolded this and I was like, Blowjob 101 song. So some of the lyrics are like, suck your bones, I like to bang the dead, I like to bang the dead. And I was like, put in parentheses, it sounded a lot cooler in French than
1,000%.
It kind of rocks.
1,000%. Yeah, in French, if you don't know what it's saying, you're like, okay, this is like a little bit of a banger.
Yeah.
And then you read the subtitles, you're like, oh my God, this girl is fucking cuckoo cuckoo.
Then we get a kind of some commotion outside or something. She comes out and Alex is playing video games with Adrian. Adrian goes off. I can't remember what he went off to do.
Go to a further party that he explained was a on-call party where doctors get wasted, and then if someone comes in, they puke and tend to the patient. To which he looked at Alex and he was like, you're lucky they didn't have a finger for you because they would have sewed it on backwards. Cool. Anyway, so that was the party he was headed to.
Yes. And so we get another scene with Justine and Alex kind of addressing the fact that it's like, oh, well, you got the taste. Did the taste have to be my finger? Because it's like, it's gone now.
This conversation starts though once Adrian leaves. Justine starts with like, hands off.
Yes.
And again, Alex is like, isn't he gay?
Yeah. Which again, it's this weird possessiveness, objectifying, like he's mine, like that's my meal kind of thing. Or like that's my friend. Like it's like unclear to me at this point where Justine's kind of like defensiveness is coming from.
I need to not jump too far ahead, but I just had a thought that we're gonna have to discuss for the very last scene.
Yes. Oh yes.
Because I'm telling you, this podcast, I digest these movies as we talk through them because it makes more sense. This is why we do this.
We get another cutscene, another weird hazing thing again. Justine is in bed, kind of gets.
But I was also like, is this hazing or is this like, are we now getting into like a figment of her hallucinating?
I don't know because was she getting like slocked like in her bed or something?
That's what it kind of seems. So we get this claustrophobic shot again. You're underneath the covers with her, and it's like the subtitles say like blow land, because it's like she's getting hit with something.
Yeah. And
she's just kind of tossing and turning and freaking out, and she's calling out for her sister.
Yeah.
And then it just stops. Yeah.
With like really like a visceral scream from her. Like she's screaming in bed under the covers. Sweating. Yeah. Sweating. And then it's the paint scene. Yeah. Which is very uncomfortable.
Again, just stumbles out of her dorm room.
More hazing. Stumbles out of her dorm room in like a shirt and underwear. Yeah. And kind of wanders down to this party and walks in and is immediately splashed with blue paint. Yeah. And then one of the hazers grabs this guy who has been splashed with yellow paint, stuffs him in a room, and he was like, don't come out until you're both green. And
I was like, that is so
awful.
Just, it feels grade school level.
It does. And this whole scene made me so uncomfortable because again, like it's throwing her into these situations that she didn't ask for. Yeah. And taking this like power away from her and stuff. And anyway, they end up making out a little bit, and then she bites him. Yeah. She really bites him. She really gets him, rips off kind of his lower lip. Yeah. Because like after that, I think people are like calling her a freak and stuff, and she leaves. Yeah. And she's showering, and then she finds a piece of his lip in her teeth, and then just.
It's the fact she like spits it out, looks at it at the bottom of the fucking shower, picks it up, looks at it, and then it's like, yep. Like, come on, man.
Come on. she comes back to the dorm and she's like depaintified and kind of goes into Adrian's room.
Yes. So Adrian was at this party.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when the guy comes out screaming, Adrian's one of the guys there. So then we're back in the dorm.
Okay. I missed that part.
Yeah, we're back in the dorm, and he basically is like, come here. And then they get in bed together. How did you feel about his line of questioning to her?
Refresh my memory on what the questioning was.
I don't have it word for word, but I kind of wrote it down as, like, is this flirtatious? What is he trying to get at? Because he kind of, so he goes down this line of, like, did he force himself on you? Like, did it turn you on? Are you still turned on? I'm just trying to figure out what you're into. Like, are you into S&M or something worse?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, what? And then she's like, basically like, no, goes back to her room, and like a man, he pulls out a laptop and has like porn that's like a guy with well, I guess I shouldn't say a guy, a person with a bag over their head behind another individual just going to town, and he tries to start it whacking off in his underwear, and then she comes back out and I think she says it's bad.
Yeah, or something else. Okay, it's
and
bad.
Then just dives into having sex.
Yes. Yeah, I hated the scene, actually. I hated this whole thing. I hated it because and it comes off later because after they have sex and stuff, I'm like, first of all, I'm like, why Adrian? Is it because he's safe?
Yeah.
What is it? Like, why are we picking on this man?
So, but again, to inverting what we normally get, women are so often like coerced into sex, basically.
Yeah.
The man is just there. It kind of just comes up. Sometimes it's like they kiss and she's like, oh no. And then they like kiss again. And then she's like, oh, okay, I'll give in.
Yeah.
Like, we see that shit all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it so many times.
So,
I can't even count, you know?
That's what I'm just trying to tell myself, because I had the same response where I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen a gay man depicted in cinema basically having sex with a woman that he doesn't want to have sex with.
Yeah. And
I think the sex scene itself is a lot. Like, she is clearly like ravenous. And there are like aspects to it where things that are like, they get started and like she's trying to kiss his one. I shouldn't say kiss. She's trying to like bite his neck, and you can tell he's like just dodging her.
Yeah. Like holding her face off, but not stopping it. Like, they're still going. Right?
And it was, once they get like spun around and basically he's seated and she's on top, and like, again, to something that would normally be sensual, he like grabs her by her hair, but she like fights it in a way that makes her look like a dog.
Like crazy
like
animal. Yeah.
Insane, out of control. Yeah, I mean, kudos to her acting.
Oh yeah. Oh,
because
yeah,
that was wild. And then basically he keeps dodging her, and then she just instead bites her own arm and then climaxes.
Yeah.
And
bites. So
gets like
pulling off of her arm.
Yeah.
Like, really chomps down.
And
yeah.
I'm going to let this roll into the next scene, and I don't know if I'm going to articulate this correctly, so forgive me if I get in muddy waters, but the next scene when they're in class and basically she's being overbearing and is like, why are you mad at me? Why aren't you talking to me? Whatever. And he basically like explodes and is like, look, I didn't hide in the closet for 20 years to fuck some girl. Like, I was like, I've never had that thought about the gay male experience in college.
Oh yeah, right. Where it's like you finally like come out of the closet, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just like now,
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I think that this kind of like it's just a lot of like disregarding Adrian and like again this objectifying, right? Because it's like you want to eat him.
Yeah.
You want to eat him.
Yeah.
Right? And like him and his orientation and his wants and his desires don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Because he is now a thing to you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, and then she's being really overbearing and stuff too. So she's a shit friend at this point. Like for even disregarding like the whole I really want to eat you thing. It's just she's not being
just in general.
Yeah. It's just like the way that she's treating him is not great. And I just am still trying to figure out why, like, what we're doing with that and with his identity and why it's like that, aside from just like subverting something.
Yeah.
Like, because I would like to think that it is some kind of like queer commentary, but I don't feel like it actually is.
Yeah.
I think he is a gay man, and that just kind of adds to his like objectification. That's my kind of interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Just because I liked him as a character, and I think that it just didn't. He just wasn't treated. He was treated like a dog.
It's like a really. I mean, it's a dark depiction of a queer experience, right?
Yeah,
where it's like, I think we always joke about like the gay friend trope, whereas like. Where normally the gay friend trope is he's like the flamboyant gay boy and da 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 da, and he's like she fucking took it and like slammed it against the wall and did some awful shit with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we get I think another cutscene, and there's this weird building rivalry between her and her sister over over Adrian.
Yeah, because that's how part of the blowout happens is the sister texts Adrian in class because Justine's not looking at her phone.
Yeah.
And it's basically just like, tell Justine to look at her fucking phone. Yeah. Which anyone who like has people in their life, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like your inner circle, that can happen.
Yeah.
And then Justine's basically like, why does she have your cell phone number? Like, why is she texting you that type of shit?
Yeah. Yeah. And then she, what did she text her again? It was just something about
basically like, mom's so sad that she found out they're putting Quickie down.
Yes.
It's like,
so maybe is that the implication that Quickie isn't dead? What's the timeline here? There's a couple plot holes, honestly. Because the rash doesn't come back up, and the wax issue doesn't come back up either. She just
that's true. We got the finger off, but what happened to the fucking wax?
What happened to the wax?
That's actually a very good point.
Yeah. So maybe that's just part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they had decided what happened chronologically or what's the implication there. But
yeah. Oh, can I read my note for the next part?
Yes, please do.
So, he storms out of class, and cutscene, we're at a party again.
Yes.
My note literally says, how does Kale feel about the eyeball licking?
Don't like it. Not a fan. I think that was my exact reaction. I was like, no.
These parties just keep getting more and more ridiculous, because the first thing we see in this party shot is like a girl standing on top of something, and there's a man standing underneath of her, and she's just licking his eyeball. And we get the close-up, so we basically go through
I hate it.
Eyeball tongue.
I hate eye stuff. I love body horror. I think it's so interesting. I think it's so like, I don't know. I think there's so much you can do with it. I hate eye stuff so much. Just leave the eyeballs alone.
The thought of being at a party and having someone lick my eyeball, no doubt, lose my contact. You've now licked my eyeball. I don't have a contact. I can't see shit. I'm not having a good time. I'm not into eyeball stuff either. So,
Not the licking the contact off the eyeball.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to
I'm
me?
just
I'm
saying.
not gonna recover.
so
That's so funny. It's so terrible.
then,
Justine's really drunk.
yeah.
And she's trying to get drunker really fast.
She is looking some time away. She got her cocktail dress on. The only dress she owns, apparently.
No clothes underneath it now. So
Yeah.
we've graduated.
Yes, so we're in only the cocktail dress. Thankfully, she does have leggings on because she's sitting one leg up at the party. I'm like, okay, girl, maybe close those legs just a smidge. But
wasted.
Yeah, and does the really good decision to... I kind of like this shot because she's so wasted. We're like bouncing through the crowd because she's really just like knocking off of people.
Just stumbling.
She finds a very nice man to give her an entire solo cup of straight vodka. Never a good idea.
I went to college.
Yeah.
Never do that.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever
That's
give
how you know.
Don't ever give somebody a full cup of
Yeah.
vodka, and don't ever drink
Don't
a full
drink
cup of
it.
vodka. Because when you drink a full cup of vodka, you end up in the morgue trying to eat somebody's fucking hand.
Yes.
So,
Every time. Yeah, well, her sister leads her there. Brings her off to the morgue.
So before we get there, I guess, just to where Justine's at is a character, she basically tries to kiss a random dude.
Mm-hmm.
The girlfriend of said dude is basically like, get the fuck off of him, and she's like, okay, I'll kiss you, and then kisses the girl, and then sister comes swooping in.
Yes.
So again, to this, like, I guess I'll say, like, teetering relationship, like, sister comes in, and you're like, oh, okay, the sister's there, she's gonna save her.
Right.
Hey,
Take
come
her
with
to bed.
me.
Give
Yeah.
her some water.
Hey, come with me. Take her down to the morgue, which I was like, she gonna put her, like, in one of the body things? But, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in the morgue, and then we get a cutscene to Justine waking up in bed.
Yeah.
Hungover.
Chugging water.
Like chugging water.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I watched that. That was awful for me because I've been there. You feel terrible.
Yeah.
And you just need to drink so much water and your head hurts so bad.
Yeah.
Terrible. But she goes about the rest of her day. She goes to class, and there's people like kind of looking at her, like giving her weird looks. And then she later finds out from Adrian, who comes up to her with a cell phone video of Justine in the morgue, Alex holding the dead hand up, teasing her.
Shitty sister.
Yeah, teasing her with this dead person's hand, and she's on the floor. Looks gone. Looks like a monster.
Oh,
looks like a demon.
Yeah, she's on all fours like a dog, just in a different universe.
Yeah, like eyes rolling back, trying to snap at this hand that's being dangled in front of her. And I hated that. Because also, it's like such a callback to so many other, like, kind of like these, again, I guess these kind of like hazing horror, right?
Yeah.
Of like it makes me think of Unfriended, which I do like as a movie. I like the concept of it. I think it's fun. But like that whole idea is that this girl was blackout drunk and recorded, and then when she saw the footage and stuff, she killed herself, right? And then she's haunting all the people that spread the video around. And so it's just awful. Like, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
It's like I kind of want a prequel of Alex's experience as a first year. What the fuck happened to you that made you so mean?
Yeah, what made you like that? And even like kind of like an idea of what their relationship was before she went away. Because you don't really get any kind of taste of that.
Like, did she go through some shit in her hazing? Probably. And she had to figure out how to be a cannibal by herself, so she kind of wants her sister to suffer too? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to that kind of that mystery of hazing, right? It's like you would think that you would want to make it better for the next person, right? That they don't have to go through that same kind of trauma.
You would hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about that kind of stuff a lot.
So she
sees the video,
and she's like, I'm ready to beat my sister's ass, which like rightfully so.
Yeah, storms out away from Adrian with the full intention of just like beating her sister's whole ass.
Yeah. Which I found this fight scene very interesting.
I did too.
We definitely keep getting a parallel to them being animals, basically.
Yeah.
Because first it's Alex and Justine. Like, Justine's here to just absolutely fuck her up. They try to get in a fight, pulling hair, whatever. And then, like, at one point, they basically lock up, both biting the other's arms where they're locked up
like,
at.
Holding. Well, and then also, prior to that, Alex bit a whole chunk of Justine's face off of her face.
Correct.
But yeah, and then they lock up like that, and it is very animal. It is very, like, they're, like, practically snarling, holding, right? Like, you know, when, like...
Latching on.
Yeah, latching.
Yeah.
And, like, animals do that, you know, when they're fighting, they'll hold,
and it was
they
just,
don't let go.
And it's interesting, because obviously there's this tension, and it's very sibling-based, and it's very them versus each other. And then, I kind of like the way it's shot. Basically, two classmates come out of nowhere and put a shirt, blanket, something, both over each of their heads to rip them apart.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit like how you would treat an animal. Put something over their face to just kind of separate them. And then there's this shot of each of them are on their knees,
fighting against people holding them back, but they're not fighting to get at each other. They are now shoulder to shoulder. They're on this kind of even playing ground.
They look like chained dogs.
Yeah, no,
is how it's shot. And then basically, I don't remember exactly how they get free, but basically,
they just kind of fight each other off. And they come back to each other, holding each other and like backing away from
like I think Justine gets free first, and then pushes the guy that's holding Alex, and then like they're embracing each other, like we have each other. So it's like this wild, horrible sibling trauma, just fucked up relationship of like, I want to kill you, you're the only person in my life that gets me. Yeah,
exactly. And I feel like, I guess I can see how that would make sense as like a sibling dynamic, right? Where it's like, I can do whatever I want to you because you're my sibling. But if you fuck with my sibling, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Exactly. Kind of that's 1,000% what it is.
And I think that at least, like, that dynamic is done relatively well in this movie, because it definitely, you get both sides of it in a pretty blatant way, but I think in a way that, like, nothing about their relationship doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense if you're looking at it through that lens of, like, you're my sibling, I'll fuck you up, but I'll fuck up anyone else who comes near you, kind of thing.
You wouldn't be able to do that in your gay depiction.
No, you wouldn't. Well,
you'd lose that.
No, you underestimate my abilities, because I can make it in a different way.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So there's like a couple other like cutscenes, wide shot cutscenes.
Yes.
That I couldn't figure out any significance to. There's that really long one when they're out in like, when this weird brutalist quad or whatever, and it's just like a guy, and then all of a sudden like this music starts playing, and it's another hazing thing.
So are you the cutscenes when they're done? So the 3 horns, you're done with the hazing ritual.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And then again, granted, it's shot a little weird because it's a wide scene. You hear the 3 horns that they explained in the very beginning. When you hear this, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done with whatever the fuck we're doing to you.
You're free.
Yeah. It's the fact that it's, like you said, a random guy that we've never seen before being focused in on. And then again, kind of like, to me, they look like zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a little...
feel like zombies at this point.
Yeah, it's a little slow-mo. They're all, like, in their blankets, and they're kind of just, like, waddling out. But yes, and then we're back in the dorm.
Yeah, back in the dorm, back in...
the end of the movie.
Adrian and Justine's dorm. And Adrian had... Well, also, just before those scenes, we get a scene of, like, they're back in Alex's dorm. Alex is trying to patch up her face, which has a gaping wound in it now, and there's kind of this like reluctance. She goes, unlocks the door to get out, and then doesn't lock the other side of the door.
Justine does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, I don't know how, like, logistically where all the dorms are set up.
Yeah.
But some door was not locked.
Yeah.
Right? And
well, I perceived that as her thinking about locking her sister in. Was how I perceived that.
Okay. I was kind of, that's really interesting because I saw it kind of the other way of like, oh, should I lock her out or not?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that is really interesting. And then so Justine wakes up in bed with Adrian again. And this shot was really interesting because, like, she's awake and she has, again, this gaping wound in her face. And there's, like, blood kind of still smeared, soaked under the bandage. And there's this kind of floral pattern on the sheets and on the pillows that you're, like, kind of, like, makes you, like, what is that? What's going on? And, like, Adrian is, like, sleeping there and there's a blanket over him. And this pattern on the blanket, like, kept catching my eye, right? Yeah. Immediately, like, I'm like, okay, are those flowers or is that blood? Is that blood from your face?
Yeah.
What's going on here? And then she's kind of like feeling up Adrian and he's not moving. And she kind of like reaches down under the covers and her hand comes back bloody, like so bloody. And he rolls over, kind of a stream of blood comes out of his mouth. And then she realizes she's soaked in blood. There's blood everywhere. They're not flowers. It's blood.
It's real blood.
It's real blood. And she pulls off the covers, and the meat of his thigh is just gnawed to the bone.
This was the scene where I was like, the practical effects in this movie are badass.
They're really good.
The thigh looks. If I had to imagine what it would look like for someone to just sit down and gnaw into the side of my thigh, I feel like we got an accurate depiction because you get bone. I feel like you get tendon. You get tendon, you get muscle. I think even a little bit of fat was in there too. And it's just like, practical effects A+ for the whole movie. So she's freaking out because I think that the implication is that she thinks that she ate him. Yeah. Right? Because she asks him, she's like, why didn't you fight back? Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, that's so sad.
Yeah, so it's this weird scene because she looks in the mirror and she kind of goes like this because here isn't bloodied like it would have been if she ate. But she still looks and then freaks out and, like you said, starts almost like punching him and it's like, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you hit me? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. It's really sad. And I was like, and then kind of just bringing it back to Adrian and why it's Adrian. And I'm like, what does it say that this gay man was eaten after dealing with these two literally kind of like predator women? Yeah. You know, just circling and snapping at each other over him. Yeah. Like, why did we do that to him? Yeah. It's really tragic. It's really sad, I think. It made me really sad.
So this was the thought that I just had earlier. So the rest of this scene, which I don't know if you caught this because I'm going to admit it was not until the second rewatch that I connected it all. And I don't know if it was just because I was so exhausted on my first watch and was just tired of the body fluids. After she finds the quad, whatever, she kind of feels his back, and there's a hole in his back.
Mm-hmm. He's been stabbed.
Yeah. And she gets out of bed, and the freaking ski pole, whatever it is, from the opening scene that Adrian handed her when they came running in, is on the ground, bloodied.
Mm-hmm. Chekhov's ski pole.
Yes.
If it is in the Act 1, if a gun is in Act 1 of a play, it will be in Act 3, having been used. Same with cars, and same with ski poles now, too, I guess. We're going to keep a list of how many we need to start one. Blank item there are, because I bet there's going to be a lot. Oh, the pepper spray, Chekhov's pepper spray.
Yes.
That never actually came back, so I guess that doesn't count.
Wouldn't make the list. bloodied pole, and then she rounds the corner and sister is on the floor, video game controller in hand, bloodied.
All the way down.
Sister killed him and ate him. And my thought was, from our earlier conversation, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together while I was watching it. Did she murder him simply to get back at Justine? You ate my finger, so I'm going to eat your...
Whatever.
I was about to say, I can't say boyfriend, but...
Whoever he is.
Who you have a crush on.
Yeah. Probably. I think it goes to this, like, again, that, like, really toxic sister thing where it's like, because she was there. This makes me think also of another scene when they're picking out clothes and she's like, you can't have that one and stuff. So it's like this thing of like, I want what you have, you want what I have, we, I don't, it's hard to articulate because I feel like that's what it is, or at least that's what the movie is showing us, right? Is this headbutting between the two of them. Yeah. I said headbutting because I always can never say the word rivalry. It took so much effort, Lisa. You don't understand.
You nailed it.
Thanks. Yeah, so she puts the ski pole to her head, basically. That was a really cool scene, and like Alex is kind of catatonic. Yeah. Like not moving, not speaking, not even like really blinking, which I thought was interesting. Like there wasn't any kind of like banter or anything after that. It was just like she's soaked in blood, and then Justine gets her up and helps her get in the shower and is washing all the blood off of her.
Yeah, it was like our first flip of this. Like Justine has been nearly begging for her sister to take care of her. Yeah. And now we're in this role where Justine's taking care of her older sister.
Yes. Yeah. And at this point, I don't think after that fight, they really, aside from the scene where she was patching up her face, we don't have any words spoken between the two of them until pretty much the second to last scene, which is done really interesting because like it's Alex has been taken off, right? She's been shipped off to jail or maybe a mental institution, something.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know, but could be either. I assumed jail.
Yeah, and their faces are kind of overlaid because they're sitting across from in a plexiglass kind of like a jail phone room kind of situation, and their faces are overlaid, and it's like you can't tell who exactly you're looking at. It's some weird amalgamation of the both of them. And I really liked that because I think that that's what the movie is about their kind of relationship and figuring out how to deal with each other. Okay. Yeah. And then after, they don't say much in the jail scene. They just kind of look at each other, and there's this like kind of quiet understanding where like Alex lifts up her hand to flip her off, and it can't.
Doesn't have a fucking middle finger.
She's missing a finger. And then Justine puts her bite mark scar on the glass, and she like kisses her cheek, and that's it. That's the last we see of Alex. Yeah. Justine goes home after that to be with her parents, and I thought that this whole dynamic is really interesting, and this whole reveal, because in the scene, there's really no interaction with the mother. I think any kind of part that we really get with the mom is not quite oppressive, but very kind of like distant. Yeah. There's a lot of distance between daughters and mom, right? Yeah. And we come to reveal that the dad understands what's going on. Like, this cannibalism thing is not a secret to him. And he has a bit of a flip on his scar, and he's talking about having met her mom and how all that went, and then you're putting the pieces together. Yeah. You're like, oh. And then he unbuttons his shirt, and mauled, like, bite scars all over his torso because the mom is also a cannibal.
Did you make a note of what the last line of the movie is?
I I did not.
The movie literally ends with him saying, as his shirt is open, full of scars, he says, "I'm sure you'll find a solution, honey."
Oh, yeah. What? What kind of advice is that, Dad?
I'm sure you'll find a solution.
Yeah.
And then it's just the weight of like I'm just putting myself in Justine's shoes. As I said, I feel like I am Justine. Like I feel that experience.
Mm-hmm.
To go to school, try to be like top of your academics,
Yeah.
and then to discover you actually come from a long line of cannibal veterinarians.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
What do you do with that? And
I'm sitting down with Mom and saying, I have some fucking questions for you.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's so strange that it is the dad that is explaining this to her.
Yeah.
Instead of the mom, who is also afflicted with this, right? Why is it the dad that's explaining it to her? And also, why are they only learning now, right? So, like, they've probably been kept lifelong vegetarians.
Yeah.
So they don't ever have these impulses, right? And, like, you can shelter all the time, but as soon as you let your children into the real world, they're gonna eat meat.
So
they're gonna
literally,
like, what are we doing?
My thought, even backing out of like how horrifically hazing this school is and how nasty it is, I'm like, you try to make your kid a vegetarian and you're trying to tell me your kid is not going to go to college, get wasted, and someone is not going to convince them to have a double bacon cheeseburger. It's going to happen.
Not in France.
Well, okay, true. I'm thinking of the American experience. But I'm just like, yeah, like I think that was just Mom's easy solution. And hoping for the best that they would stick to being a vegetarian and never find out.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that a lot, because it's like, again, it almost comes down in the same, like, hazing thing. It was like, you could have made my experience of this better, but you chose not to, right? So, like, the mom did not inform, did not enlighten, did not provide any kind of guidance to dealing with this, right? Just leaving it up to the daughters to find their own solutions. Won't even address it once it's been known. And that, it reminds me, I'm surprised I've waited to just about the end here to bring up Bones and All.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Bones and All is my favorite movie. Also a cannibal coming of age.
Yes, correct.
Story. But it's very similar to, like, Marin having a breakdown after she found her mom in the asylum, right? In that she's like, she's one of them, she's one of us. If I had anybody on my side during this whole thing, I could have figured it out better. I could have managed it better. Could have known what to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I saw that scene from Bones and All in theaters, I broke down sobbing. Because it is this kind of, it makes me think of, like, just, I guess in my personal experience, like, of dealing with, like, mental illness.
Yeah.
That, you know, other people in your family deal with, but it has never ever been addressed.
Yeah.
It has never been, it's like, I had to figure out everything by myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so, like, you can't just look away, you can't just shelter, you can't just make someone a vegetarian hoping that that is just going to repress this thing that is inside them and that is inevitably going to bubble up in some way.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting about just, like, the absence of the mother, I think, is a character in and of itself.
Yeah. I think, I feel like so often the shame that a mother feels about her own lived experience will always manifest into shame in their daughters.
Oh, 100%.
Like, that's 100% what it is. She probably didn't know how to function with it.
Yeah.
She clearly couldn't cope with it because she dated Dad for how long before it came up?
Yeah. Like, it was
So
like
she was like, well, I don't know how to cope with this, so I can't teach you how to cope with it. We're just going to make you vegetarians and hope for the fucking best.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, maybe that is her doing her best, but it still is like,
If
you had just, instead of repressing, if you had just addressed it,
yeah,
I think that's so, because then it could have been easier, but instead you made them suffer in the same kind of way of, like, not knowing that you had to deal with, which brings it back to, like, this hazing thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But even that, why the fuck would you want your daughters to go to this school that hazes people so bad?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Boo! You already suck. Let alone not teaching them how to be cannibals.
I put about 3 different times in my notes of, like, the parents suck.
Accurate.
Yes.
All right, so did you like it? Did you love it? We forgot to do this for I Saw the TV Glow, sadly.
Well, I think it was pretty clear.
Well, true.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I know the first time, so I watched it for the first time a long time ago, like probably like 4 or 5 years ago when it came out. 2017. What year is it? I don't know. Can't do math.
Yeah.
I liked it the first time. The second time, I was like I was like annoyed, I think, because I was like picking out all these things that I didn't like. Yeah. And then the third time, once I was going through and parsing out and figuring out my notes and watched the end and then watched the beginning again, I was like, yeah, I do like it. Is it like my favorite movie?
No.
It's not even my favorite cannibal movie. Oh. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay.
But not my favorite.
Yeah. I just,
I'm very excited to hear your opinion on this. So I started laughing.
I've already come to understand that we have very different tastes in horror, which I can respect. Everyone has their own vibe. Yeah. Jordan and I were standing at work the other day and someone was talking about how they didn't like slashers, and Jordan just started giggling because she knows that I fucking love slashers.
Yes.
So everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I know that I have to buckle in and buckle up for your preference with body horror. This one was a weird one for me because it's like, again, like my slashers have my little tropes and they're comfortable to me. I just like, I love, like, you can nitpick tropes along the way and they bring me joy. I think when I look at this movie for like those tiny aspects, hate it. I'm like, it's just not it for me. Yeah. I can't do hair coming out of the throat. I can't do raw chicken. I can't do licking the eyeball at the party. Like,
can't do that either, honestly.
That's not a good time for me. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin, which is its own aspect of horror, but I don't want that all the time.
Yeah.
When I made a mini episode on this, how I'm getting hyper fixated on consuming bodies of work of writers or directors.
Yes.
So I went and I watched Titane, which is the next movie that this writer-director made. And in watching that and reading, like, she spoke on how, like, she kind of alluded to, from my understanding, this was a movie about love, but it's kind of like conditional love. Like a little bit of, maybe it's a little bit of like, you're a cannibal, I'm a cannibal, we're siblings, this is fine. And she talks about how she wanted to make Titane, which is a bit more of a unconditional love, like I'm gonna love you no matter what type of story. And going into this with like looking at it as like a sibling love story or like a sibling experience story. I don't know how to articulate it appropriately, but like looking at it as a sibling dynamic story based in cannibalistic horror, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, like my preference to certain types of gore is just different. Like I think about this movie and I'm like, I think I would have really enjoyed like give me a scene where the sisters together have lost their fucking marbles and are just gnawing into somebody.
Yeah.
I think I would have thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Eating raw chicken breast out of the refrigerator, not gonna enjoy it.
Not for you. Well, I think that's really interesting because I think that it does say that how our taste in horror and what we really, because I like horror of most things, but I like my niche, right, is gonna be body horror.
Yeah.
Because I look for, you're more of like a comfort watcher, right? And like the rhythm of the trope, right? I more when I engage with horror, I look to be uncomfortable. Yeah. I want to be uncomfortable. Yeah. If a movie makes me uncomfortable, that's like 5 stars for me, you know? Because I think that's just kind of the emotion, like just being able to elicit that kind of emotion, I think says a lot, because horror is uncomfortable, right? Of a type of horror it is, because like it so often gets kind of pushed under the rug, is that it's such a dynamic genre. Yeah, there's so much range within the genre that, you know, you can't have 2 people looking for two different things and getting different things out of it, because there's so many different things going on. Yeah. So I think it's cool, and I like being able to like bounce that off of you and getting your perspective on stuff. I'm just like giggling though, because I think there is an aspect of me that is always chasing like being uncomfortable, but like my uncomfortable is like, I'll use the example of like in A Violent Nature, when he like shoves through her stomach, grabs the hook, and then like snaps her in half by pulling her through her own stomach. And I was just like, that's a lot, and that is really violent. But I'm like, oh, like, I don't know, it's weird. I wonder if there's like a believability at play too, right? Oh. Like it kind of like that's so crazy over the top, but like I can't, like you should watch the girl nibble on her finger like it's a chicken wing. That absolutely could fucking happen. Yeah. So it's like it did also have me intrigued as to what the consistency of nibbling on a finger would be like. Well, I've been told, you know, you hear the trope of like, oh, you can bite through your finger with the same strength that it takes to bite through a carrot. Oh, yeah. Your brain just tells you not to. I don't know if that's true. Do not quote me on that. This is not a science podcast. Yeah. For legal purposes, please don't try that and tag us. So, but yeah, I liked it. I think that there was enough. It's not my favorite cannibal movie. I need you to watch Titane though. Okay. I will watch Titane for sure. I feel like you might be. I feel like you might be mad at me afterwards, but oh really? Well, not mad, is but there eye stuff that happens in it. No, does someone lick their contact off of their eyeball, Lisa. No, it's just a wild ride. No cannibals though. I will say no cannibals round 2, but that's fine. Buckle up. It's a good one. It's the first half very violent. The second half, you're getting kind of weird. Yeah, is how I'll describe it. I saw some Reddit thread that described this movie as being like French extremism, and I'm like, have they seen High Tension? Right? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if you think this is extreme, sit down. Honey. Sit down. What are we doing? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I got. We definitely when we kind of get into like yapping. Like, we're yappers. We're yappers a little bit. Yapping, but when we get to yap about Bones and All, which we have to do an episode on that. I'm sorry. It's my favorite movie. I would be open to it. That makes me It doesn't have to be anytime soon. It's just we do have to talk about it. It can be on I need a platform. Let's wait until we have like hundreds of thousands, and then we can do it. Okay. And then all of the people will listen to you talk about it. Perfect. I love that you love Bones and All, because I would argue that Bones and All is a romantic movie about cannibals. Yeah, that's why I love it. Because okay, so that's my biggest thing. And I think that this is my problem with this movie, is that I'm not sure what cannibalism is a metaphor for in this movie. Is it a metaphor for being outsiders, for being in love, for being a woman, is it a metaphor for like a sexual awakening? I don't know. And I don't think that a narrative has to make that super clear cut. Yeah. But it's the fact that I couldn't just really figure out its purpose. It's just, they're just cannibals. Yeah. And I like cannibalism because cut that. Because it can be used as such an interesting narrative device, and if you're not using it for something, then what are you using it for? And I think that's kind of where my problem with this is. Whereas bones and all, it is like the metaphor there is a lot starker, I think. And yeah, well, like I said, I don't need everything to be cut and dry for me, but that's why I think Bones and All is a superior cannibal film. Anyway.
Heard it here first.
Heard it here first.
All right.
Well.
Was that your obsession portion? Oh, you have to talk about that book.
Yes. Okay. The Vegetarian.
I'll let you keep going because I feel like you just went on a little bit of an obsessive rant about Bones and All. I'll let you do the book too, and then I'll get to mine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so The Vegetarian, again, by Han Kang, first South Korean author to ever win the Nobel Prize in Literature, which is amazing. Also, Han Kang is a woman, which is also amazing.
Yep.
It's great. It came out in 2007, but it wasn't translated until 2016. But so it's this idea of this woman who just stops eating meat, and it's told through she wakes up, she has terrible dreams of like animals being slaughtered, and then she stops eating meat, right? And then the rest of the story is like this implications on how her decision affects all of the relationships in her life. So with her husband, who is like a deadbeat, and then her, I think, sister-in-law, and then one other character. And it's like going around, it kind of reminds me of the way that, like, why Justine's decisions of what to do with her body and what to put in her body were so challenged and pushed, and the boundaries are pushed, because the Vegetarian is very much follows that line where, like, they're trying to force this woman to eat meat, because eventually she stops eating, and, like, spoiler alert, like, kind of has this, like, notion that she can just eat sunlight. And it's like the slow descent kind of into this, with these crazy pressures of, like, people being like, why are you being like this, all around her. It's a phenomenal book. I read it a couple years ago, but yeah, it did just win the Nobel Prize for Literature. So definitely recommend. And I did think about it, like, those aspects of it a lot as I was, like, going through and kind of dissecting this movie.
Okay. Love that.
Yeah.
All right, my obsessions this week. So I made a mini episode about this, so you guys should go listen to me rant for 10 minutes. But Jane Schoenbrun is writing a book called Public Access Afterworld. They are the creator of I Saw the TV Low, and
we all went to the World's Fair.
Thank you. We're all going to the World's Fair. And this book is basically tying that together. Like, they were saying that they envisioned it as a trilogy, and they're saying this book, they're hoping to kind of make it like a universe. Like,
okay,
I hate to say Harry Potter, because, and I did laugh though, because in what I read, they were like, it's almost like Harry Potter, ew, because J.K. Rowling is problematic, but so kind of making a world out of it. So very excited about that. A little nugget for you all. Cabs here, Jersey Shore watchers. JWoww from the Jersey Shore has a horror movie. Is it out yet? At the time our listeners are listening to this, it will be out. It is streaming for free on Screambox. Have you heard of Screambox?
I have not heard of Screambox.
So I got roped into Screambox because that was the first streaming platform that had Terrifier.
Oh,
so when Terrifier and Terrifier 2 was starting to pop off, Screambox was who had it. So I think I still have a Screambox subscription, but I'm never on there. It's a bit campier compared to Shudder, whatnot.
Yeah, it's where you put a Jersey Shore horror movie.
Yes, so it is. It's called Devon. It's a found footage style horror movie. I watched an interview with her. She claimed that it took her 2 to 3 years to get anybody to edit it because they shot it with like 12 cameras. So, like, you're doing a scene, but we have 12 cameras on you. So they have to figure out what cut to do. So I was like, JWoww, I think you're doing the most. But anyway,
You should.
and then reading up on it, it's something along the lines of like 5 people are hired to find a missing girl in an asylum.
Okay.
So I will probably indulge just to see what's what.
Yeah, I will too, for sure.
A little bit of Lisa lore. I was JWoww for Halloween one time in college.
That rocks.
So there are photos out there of me of
Jesus.
JWoww, hopefully not easily findable. And then lastly, which I think this will be like a good segue into what our next movie is. This is not an obsession, but this is just I think there's a straight agenda going on with holiday Christmas movies.
A straight agenda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just categorically. We don't have any queer ones, except for the one with Kristen Stewart. And you know what? That one sucked.
Don't you dare. I love Happiest Season.
I need to watch it again, probably. I just felt like the relationship was so toxic.
Oh, well,
fair.
yeah, it's horrifically toxic.
Yeah, okay. I need to watch it again because I see the value in, because I thought I think I walked into it with different expectations.
Oh, you wanted like a frou-frou, like
I
we're
did.
all happy.
I'm like,
No,
why can't we have that?
it is the perfect depiction of a toxic gay relationship with a wonderful gay best friend in David from Schitt's Creek. He is
Absolutely.
perfect and spot on, and I love it, and I'm actually asking for it on DVD for Christmas this year. That's how much I love it, because if Hulu ever drops it, I'm gonna have a stroke if I can't stream it. Anyway, I think there's a straight agenda with Christmas movies, because the more that I'm being forced to watch, I'm always a Googling, and I'm realizing that all of them are written and directed by men, which makes me question a lot of things, because to me, I think the Hallmark movie business should be monopolized by women. I think that should be strictly handled by female writers and directors, and they're nowhere to be found. But I just had to watch a movie called Hot Frosty, and it was the fucking most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And again, I was questioning the fact of why did they take Frosty the Snowman, make him a shredded man with a six-pack, but a man made the movie. Why is a man writing this?
The male gaze is very much also for other men.
Well,
I feel like, you know, it's okay, so like the male gaze is more like frequently like turned on women, right? Like you want to see the you know, the shots that we all know, right? But then it's like this weird fixation with being like the perfect man. It was like, oh, what do women really love? They love six packs, you know. So it's like the male gaze through the eyes of women. Yeah. Or how they think a woman thinks, right? That's why. That's my...
Anyway, but to the holiday season means holiday horror. I'm so excited for this upcoming month. Our upcoming shows are going to be amazing.
Yes,
we will get to Black Christmas right before Christmas as our gift to you. But next up, we are going to start with The Sacrifice Game.
I haven't seen it yet.
It is a Shudder original. It is directed by a woman, and I will say co-written by a woman. I don't know how like writing goes. There are several names listed. She is second in line. A man is ahead of her. So, but directed by a woman. So visually, it's her execution. It takes place at a girls' school over Christmas break.
Ooh, okay.
And
Interesting.
I think it's different than what we've done so far. There's I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to ruin anything. But it's new. It's on Shudder. Make sure you watch it. That will be our next episode.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.